Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Amanda. Welcome, thank you for joining me today. In this video, I want to share with you how, going into the new year, how we can create intentional space in our lives for God. By the way, my kids are home right now on winter break and in the other room, so if you hear noises in the background, that's what it is. As we're going into a new year, I've been reflecting a lot on how I want to make more space for God in my life. So I thought this video would be a good opportunity to share my heart with you a little bit and invite you as well into a new season, a new year of quiet time with God. And look, I know more than anybody that life can be chaotic and noisy and busy. I have 4 children, ages 7 and under, so my life is anything but quiet. But I've come to realize that all of that busyness, all of those distractions aren't just things that we have to deal with. They're more than that. They're actually robbing us of our time with God. And God is the one who brings us peace and clarity and purpose, and we don't want to be robbed of that. So that's what I want to dive into today and talk about how we can overcome those distractions in our lives, how I am specifically choosing to work on overcoming specific distractions in my own life, and just how we can intentionally go about creating that space and that quiet time to be with God. So I am planning to do a 1-month social media fast in the month of January, starting in the new year, and I'm going to share about that a little bit more. I think that a fast of that kind is a great way to refocus your heart. So if you have some time, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, let's chat a little bit about this. Okay, so I want to start with a little bit of transparency, a little bit of honesty. The real struggle of distraction in our lives, especially if you're a mom with young children, if you're at home like I am right now, it feels endless, the amount of busyness and chaos and distraction in our lives. There's the ongoing just upkeep of a home and the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry, and then the never-ending to-do list and the running list in your mind of everything that the kids need, and they always need something. And so I don't think I have to explain to many of you watching how that feels. And you know, just when maybe you think you get that moment of peace, then your phone buzzes and you check something, whether it's a text or an email, but then before you know it, 30 minutes has gone by because you started scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you don't even remember what you were looking at on your phone in the first place. So here's the thing, while I don't think that social media is inherently bad, I think there can be tremendous value in it. I find for myself personally, and maybe you're the same, I often find myself just mindlessly scrolling on it. And then what inevitably happens when you do that is you start to play that whole comparison game with what you're seeing on social media. And it just starts to fill your mind with all sorts of things that just ultimately don't add any value to your life. If I can sum it up, what it feels like in one word, I would say noise. It's just a bunch of noise. Sometimes it feels like at the end of the day that what it's really doing is drowning out that still voice of God. And the more that I've been reflecting on this, the more I've realized that these distractions in my life, predominantly social media, it's just stealing my peace. It's stealing my connection with God. And here's the kicker: the noise, the clutter of social media, that distraction, it doesn't even do anything for me. It doesn't fill me in any way. I'll be scrolling, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, and sure, I'll get that instant dopamine hit. So I'll watch something funny or even educational, and I'll feel good in that moment, but it doesn't ever bring me true peace. It never does. Only God can do that. So this brings me to a story that has been on my mind a lot lately. And if you're familiar with the story, it's the one of Mary and Martha. You can find it in Luke chapter 10. I think it starts at verse 38. So I'm not going to read directly from it, but I just want to touch on this story a little bit. So I'll quickly just sum up this story for you if you're not familiar with it. Jesus is visiting the home of these 2 sisters, Mary and Martha, and Martha is running around doing all the things. She's preparing the food, she's getting the place ready, she's cleaning, she's making sure that everything is just right, she's busy, right? Meanwhile, Mary is over sitting at Jesus' feet, just listening to him, just spending time with him. And so seeing this, Martha is getting frustrated. She's like, here I am, I'm doing everything, Mary's just sitting there. So she says to Jesus, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. But Jesus responds so gently here, and he says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So I've been thinking about this story a lot lately, because when I read it, I think about how much I am like Martha. As much as I would love to say I'm more like Mary, I think I'm just more like Martha in so many ways. I always feel myself keeping busy and doing. I'm always finding something else to do. There's always something else to do. I've always got something going on in the home or with the kids, and it feels like spending time with Jesus is the last thing on my to-do list. And so I was thinking, like, how often, like Mary, am I taking the time to just sit in his presence? I was thinking about this, and it hit me how I've been so focused lately on the distractions in my life that I've missed a lot of the opportunity to just sit at his feet like Mary. I've been filling my days a lot lately with good things. It's not that what Martha was doing were bad things. They're good things, but they're not always necessarily the best thing. So as we move into the new year, I'm thinking and reflecting, how can I be more like Mary? How can I choose the quiet time with God over the distractions? And that's where I think this whole concept of fasting from the distractions comes into play. I want to talk a bit about why I'm choosing to fast from social media for the month of January in the new year. So like I said earlier, for me personally, one of the biggest distractions in my life is social media. And I'm being honest here, and I know I'm not alone here. I think if more of us are honest with ourselves, we don't think we have a problem with it. But if we really reflect on it, many of us do. Just way too easy to get caught up scrolling, way too easy. And while yes, it can have its benefits, there is value to it, I think that it's nowhere near as much as it's taking from us. So it's not, even if it's giving us a little bit of value in some small way, it's taking way more from us. And it's just mentally overwhelming. Like I said earlier, you get kind of caught up in comparing your life to what you're seeing on social media. And it's just a lot of information. Like, even if it's good information, sometimes it's just too much information. So this year, for the first time, and I've done these little mini social media fasts, like a day here, maybe even a couple days, a little bit longer I've done before, but I've never done, I think, a complete full month fasting from it. And for me, the purpose behind this, because when I've done this in the past, even if it's for a few days or a week, I've noticed kind of the weight lifted and just the breath of fresh air of the time and the freedom that I feel from it. And so I really believe that by stepping away from social media, I can reclaim that time and that energy that I feel like I've been wasting, and I can turn around and I can invest it into things that matter, like prayer and being in the Word more and journaling about it. Simply being more present with God and just with myself and my family in my day-to-day life. And I think and I hope that this fast, this break from social media will help me to connect with God in a deeper way. Now, I'm not necessarily saying or encouraging you to do the same, although I think it's a great idea and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm saying to take an honest look at the distractions in your own life, whether it might be like me and it's social media, or maybe it's something else. But stop and think, what is it in my life that's pulling me away from that quiet time with God? What distractions are pulling me away? Maybe for you, it's not social media. Maybe you are constantly connected to your email, or maybe you've overcommitted yourself in your schedule and you just have so much going on that you just don't have the time for God. You're not making the time for God because you're overcommitting yourself in other ways. Really reflect on what it is that you need to personally unplug from so you can reconnect with God. Okay, so let's talk about a few practical ways that you can create that quiet time with God. And I want to start by saying it doesn't have to be something big, like a whole month social media fast. You don't have to start that way. It can be something small to start with. It can be just dedicating 5 minutes every morning when you wake up, before you even touch your phone, to just pray or to just be with God that way. No distractions, just you and God. It can literally be something that small. For me personally, I know my phone is a distraction, so I've had to set boundaries that when I do come down, let's say early in the morning, to have my quiet time, read my Bible, be in prayer, I leave my phone in the other room. I don't even bring it with me, beside me, because I know it's a distraction for me. And if it's right beside me, I'm tempted to check it every few minutes, even though I don't know what I'm checking for. It's there, it's distracting me, so I keep it out of sight, out of mind. The second tip I would suggest is to keep a journal during this time. Sometimes it's hard to hear from God when there's so much noise in our lives, and jotting things down can help you kind of clear the clutter out of your head, out of your mind, get it onto paper. Also a great way to stay focused on maybe what God is teaching you in this season of life, or what you're learning from God as you're praying. As you have questions, jot those things down, and then jot down the answers when you get them, or anything that God is speaking to you or teaching you. Jot all this stuff down so that it's not just this cluttered mess in your head and you can't sort it out, or you're forgetting things. Keeping a journal is a great way to create that space and that quiet time with God, and to reflect on what your prayer life is and has been, and what you're learning through reading His Word. So I would highly encourage you, if you haven't started keeping a journal already, to keep a journal. And finally, this is catered more towards like a tip for people who are overcommitting themselves in life overall, just in the busyness of life. Your schedule is packed all the time. Don't be afraid to start saying no to things. We live in a culture that praises, for some reason, like praises busyness, but I want to encourage you to remember, just like Jesus told Martha, there's really only one thing that's truly needed. So focus on making room for that one thing. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. And honestly, my prayer for you for this year, for 2025, is that we can all find more time to sit at the feet of Jesus like Mary, just to silence all the noise and just to sit in His presence more. If you are feeling overwhelmed, I hope that this video brought you some encouragement to maybe take a step back and reflect on what it is in your life, what distractions are stealing your peace right now, and that maybe it gave you some ideas about how to go about creating that quiet time with God. So make sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you how you're going to try to make more quiet time for God in the next year, what it is that you think is distracting you, and what you need to work on eliminating and unplugging from in your own life, so that you can be more present with Him. As always, thank you so much for spending this time with me and for being here. I'm praying for all of you that this year is one of peace and growth and just deeper connection with God. I will see you in the next video.